Hello, my name is Steve D'Agostino, and my co-host Ann Fernald and I welcome you to a special video episode of the Twice Over podcast, because to teach is to learn twice over. The Instructor Spotlight video series aims to highlight instructors who have experienced success in teaching online in an effort to inspire others and to provide reassurance that we can do this. In this video, we welcome Mary Burke, economics lecturer at Fordham University, who talks about using video lectures in asynchronous online courses.
I'm Mary Burke, and I'm with the economics department. I've been there for over 20 years, and I teach statistics, money and banking, some courses for the International Political Economy program, graduate level, and it's been very interesting and enjoyable. Several years ago, Dean Chakowski came to me to ask about developing an online course for the summer program, and that's how I began. And I used that experience this spring when we suddenly moved to the online. I borrowed a camera from the economics department. I recruited my 3 nieces, and we went to the library where there was a whiteboard. We made the recordings. There were 4 or 5 of them, I guess each one maybe 4 or 5 minutes long, but it was material that I wanted to be able to show actively how it flowed from one step to the next.
Welcome to Chapter 11. In this chapter, we're extending the idea of hypothesis testing from the one sample testing we did in Chapter 10, the one population that we looked at, to comparing 2 populations, talking about 2 sample means, comparing 2 sample proportions. We'll find that we're taking samples from 2 individual populations. On the board, I tried to illustrate this with the mean, where we would have the parent population for the first population, for the first group. Say I want to compare 2 different schools, and I'm taking student grades from school number 1. The parent population is simply the individual grades. I take a sample from that parent population. I take repeated samples from that population. I'll have what we call the sampling distribution, where x bar sub 1 is the average, the mean, of samples drawn from the first population, population 1. In Chapter 10, we were looking at hypothesis testing about one population. Now I want to compare the individual grades at school 1 to the individual grades at school 2. I have again a parent population. Its mean, what is the average grade for all the students? I take repeated samples out of that population, creating another sampling distribution where I talk about x bar sub 2, the mean of samples from population 2. The overall mean, mu sub x bar, is what I will be comparing to the mu sub x bar for the first sample population. In Chapter 11, we create a new distribution. I'm comparing the sample values from each population, and I create this brand new distribution where the horizontal axis is looking at the differences between 2 sample means. We have a standard deviation for each of our populations. The standard deviation actually for the parent population, the standard error of the mean for the sampling distribution, and the standard deviation for these differences among my sample means. The hypothesis test looks h sub 0 and h sub 1 very much like we had before. Now, instead of one value being equal to, one mean being equal to a particular grade, I will write this as the mean of 1. Is it equal to the mean of 2? Implied there, mu1 minus mu2 is 0. Mu1 not equal to mu2. So my difference mu1 minus mu2 is not 0. That is our two-sided non-directional test.
In every class that I teach in person, I try to start off the class with a list of what it is I hope to accomplish with the group that morning or afternoon, and essentially make a list, which is what I use. I took my notes essentially and translated it to the PowerPoint to the very beginning. And sometimes the textbook is very helpful, gives learning objectives, the goals. I would modify those, trying to, again, orient the students as to where we were going to head. And then as I went through the narration, would take each topic, as I would have in class, and try to expand on that. Towards the end, I would then say, we have done this A, B, and C. I know we covered the same amount of material, and I think judging from the questions I would get in emails, their performance on the tests themselves, I thought that they grasped the basic material as well as they would have. Towards the end of the statistics class, I had them do a number of problems. They become online problems, and they did those questions, submitted their homeworks there, as well as any had done during a semester. I know.
The Instructor Spotlight video series will continue throughout the following months as we prepare for the fall. Learning will be easier if we can learn from each other. Thanks very much for watching.